So today we're going to be taking a look at Cinestill 50D. So Cinestill 50D is a daylight balanced film. It also has an ISO of 50, so it is kind of one of the most fine-grained films out there. So, I've never really shot this film before, so I thought I'd kind of, just give it a try, because, I have shot a good amount of, Cinestill 800, so I thought, going from, one of the highest levels, to one of the lower levels of film would be kind of interesting to see. So I took this film and I went out to the Outer Sunset District and I kind of just walked around shooting it. So Cinestill 50D is actually Kodak Vision 3 50D. It is the, color negative motion picture film, and Cinestill actually acquired the Vision 3 from Kodak themselves, and then they used, their process to remove the film's red and jet backing, and then because of that, it's now possible to develop the film in a C41 chemistry. So I think, it is very interesting how, Cinestill is doing this. It is, similar with the 800T as well. That is another one of Kodak's motion picture films that they, kind of redid as well. So it's kind of interesting to see, Cinestill putting use to, these old films that are kind of hard to process. So the Outer Sunset District is, a pretty colorful place. Like every other house is kind of like a different, neon color, which is kind of cool. But this probably, wasn't the best film to be shooting there because, Cinestill is, not a very saturated film. It has more of, a softer pastel color palette to it. And, its saturation is definitely a lot lower than, like what you get with Kodak Ektar or even Portra. So kind of in the editing side, I did kind of have to add more, saturation to it and, more contrast as well, which, isn't really a big thing or deal breaker at all. It's kind of just something that, I thought I'd mention. And, for, people out there who do, kind of like a little bit more saturated, that you might have to take this into, consideration, when shooting this film. But a nice thing about this film is its high latitude. you know, because it is, you know, a pretty, you know, low speed film. So you do kind of need a lot of light to, you know, shoot this film. I was shooting this on an overcast day, which probably wasn't, you know, the best, you know, time to be shooting it either. But, you know, it still worked out pretty well for me. I didn't really have any problem, you know, getting any underexposed images. But, you know, if I did, just having, you know, that safety that, you know, that I could push it, you know, a little bit more is nice. But, you know, I was just pretty much shooting at like 1/25th of a second, you know, and just like around like an f8. So even, you know, just shooting that on like a pretty, you know, overcast day and this not having to really do any correcting at all, that was pretty nice and pretty impressive from, you know, a very low speed film as well. And one more kind of note about this film is that kind of in the scanning side, it does, you know, tend to, you know, scan a bit yellow and green sometimes, which is, you know, kind of something that's not really supposed to happen because this is, you know, a daylight balanced film. So it is supposed to be, you know, produce more of a neutral, you know, or an accurate kind of color reading to it. So that is kind of just, you know, something to take into account as well. But again, it's really not going to be that hard to fix it. Kind of just slightly adjust your kind of hues and white balance in the, you know, the editing side, and you should easily fix it. You know, my rolls, they, you know, a little bit on the yellow side a little bit, but, you know, I'm perfectly, you know, fine with that. It's not that big of a deal to me, so, you know, you know, not, you know, the end of the world with the little bit off, you know, scanning. So I do like the results I got with this film. I don't really have any major complaints about it at all. You know, it was kind of interesting, you know, just having to shoot, you know, a 50 ISO film because I usually don't shoot that low. So I did have to kind of adjust, you know, my settings a little bit. But, you know, for the most part, it really, you know, wasn't that big of a difference at all. And, you know, I don't see myself shooting this film a whole lot in the future. You know, not that I have, you know, anything against it at all. It's just a little bit, you know, the slight yellow cast I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't usually prefer, you know, a yellow cast to my film. But, you know, that's not to say that I would never shoot this again. You know, probably, you know, just here and there, you know, if I'm just, you know, going out to shoot, I could see myself, you know, maybe bringing a, you know, a longer roll, you know, if I feel like it. So yeah, but this is just, you know, a pretty nice film. I, you know, definitely, you know, recommend checking it out. You know, Cinestill does make some really, you know, good quality films. And, you know, if you're, you know, looking to try something new, or if you just want to, you know, get into maybe shooting, you know, a low, you know, grain daylight bounce film for your professional work, I think this would be kind of a nice film to do that with.